We're here with my cohort to talk about professional development today. I am Dustin Godey, a student at Lamar, and I also teach psychology for Klein Cain High School. I'm in my 10th year of teaching and 3rd year at Klein Cain. You start at my far left, working to the right. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Christian Lee. I'm a teacher at St. John's High School in Houston, Texas, where I currently teach English. And I'm in my 14th year in education.
Melissa Jacobs. I am an elementary PE teacher at Frank. I've been teaching for 16 years, and I've also done some special ed years in there.
My name is Erica Godey. I am a science teacher at Klein Cain High School, and I've been teaching for about 9 years now.
I'm Elizabeth Harkey. I teach at Klein Cain High School. I've been there for 6 years. I'm the HOSA teacher.
Aaron Shane. I've been teaching for 5 years in the Cy-Fair School District over at Cy Creek High School, and I teach math.
Well, thank you for joining us today, guys. The first thing I'd like to discuss is how impactful professional development has been for you, but more specifically, how it has been impactful in developing your content understanding, your relationships with students, and helping students with achievement in whatever capacity that could be, whether it's standardized testing scores or their ability to socially adjust. If we would start with Mr. Lee, and then we'll go down the line, and then end with Mr. Shane.
Well, with the aspect of standardized testing, we don't do standardized testing in the private school environment. So I think that takes a big burden or big thing off our plate that we don't have to do. Unfortunately, I know back in the public school system, it was something that was front and center, and that's what we all cared about. But what's nice about being in the private school sector is that we can actually teach the curriculum, I think, a little bit better.
So you guys tend to focus more on content in your professional development?
Yes, yeah. It's more personal content because the school environment that we're in is that our kids are highly motivated, which is there's pros and cons to that. With these kids, we're a lot more pressure put on us to be able to provide better content to them, to make sure our skills and our knowledge of the subject is stronger and better.
Right.
And then we have to spend more time dealing with parents on our side too. So then when we go to our administration for help, we're usually asking, hey, can you help me with this parent? Can you help me, not allow one parent to kind of monopolize my classroom?
How has administration adapted to help you prepare for dealing with highly motivated students and parents that are highly involved in the classroom?
Finding ways to better communicate with parents through social media, through, make sure that there's additional platforms for these parents to look at and to be a part of much more than just me sending an email out to them. I think it's kind of like information overload. You really have got to make sure these parents feel like they're getting their money's worth, essentially, and it's just constant communication and different resources for them to be able to look at and make them feel like they are part of the curriculum in the classroom.
Ms. Jacobs?
As far as the impactfulness of professional development, it obviously for me it is content based. If it is more specific to what I'm going to use in my classroom, the better for us. I've been to several really great professional developments that are specific towards PE, which is a very different world than a regular classroom, and we're learning games and trying to change things up and motivate these kids who are using technology all the time, but those kinds of professional developments are more impactful for us because it's about what we do specific. So the more specific it is, the better it works for us. We also with the relationships, absolutely, we've had some great professional development. Lately, it's been the big topic of our district is building relationships and trying to have those connections with our students because, as we've all seen, the closer you are with your students, the more personal you are, the better result you get out of those kiddos. As far as, finding results or, seeing, your test scores and whatnot, obviously that's not really something that we deal with a whole lot, but watching your kiddos grow through your class is kind of where we see things happen for us. So when we go to these professional developments that are about testing and data and results and that kind of stuff, we get a little fuzzy because we're not really in that world.
But Ms. Jacobs, you spoke about professional development that helps you develop more content as well as building relationships. And you're a very experienced teacher. Do you have any experience teaching with younger teachers who are new to the field?
Yes. And
If you could speak for them, would you say that they get more or less impact from content development PD or relationship?
that's really interesting. So at the beginning, from what I see, they are all about the relationship. They get more out of that. We actually have a brand new teacher that just started over Christmas break. She left school and just started. And, as far as content, she's kind of okay. I mean, with curriculum and the way it's based, she's able to, pick up and go, and her background through her university really got her trained, and she was good to go with that. It's the classroom management and the relationship stuff that she's really learning a lot from professional developments and stuff like that, because that's the stuff you can't really learn from a book, necessarily in a university.
It's not as authentic. It's like not authentically able to teach. It's something that's more experience based.
It is experience based, but when you're with other teachers who have been there, done that, and you're in these courses, you're able to learn so much more. I feel like they are, because they literally hang on every word you have to say about your relationships and how to do that, and that seems to really a light goes off for those new teachers.
Now, so with physical education, having experienced teachers like yourselves provide content on behalf of a partner teacher, that's very beneficial. Do you think that would be a good transition into more content? Core class content? Like, so would a math teacher, would they experience this same type of equity being new?
Yes, I think so.
So you think they should focus on relationship building?
I do. It's just so important, and for any teacher, honestly, it's probably easier in the physical education world to have those relationships, just because it's already kind of based, and you think about your coaches and you think about those teachers, it's an easy transition. Whereas a math teacher and an English teacher, science teachers, that's a lot harder for them. I think it's even more important for them, because it's not natural, having that relationship. The teacher really has to put forth that effort. Whereas in physical education, it's already there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's when I'm teaching my classes, it's hard to engage your students a lot more when it's the square root of 9 is you can only teach 2 plus 2 or in so many different ways. It's a lot harder to connect with somebody versus your PE. You're physically interacting with your kids constantly.
Agreed. I think that sometimes we hit this very like this brick wall, this mental wall of like kids that will come to me and be like, I'm not good at math, and they have that so ingrained that relationship aspect is so important to get them to believe in themselves again, to get them to really put forth that effort. Because if they don't have that, then you're teaching to this brick wall to someone who doesn't believe in themselves, and that makes it very difficult. So I agree.
Has anyone have any exposure with growth mindset in their professional development? Let's go to you. And so I assume that's why you brought that up as a point, as when you have a student approach you who is like, well, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at science. What sort of professional development have you been to that has allowed you to overcome those obstacles and barriers?
I've had 2 professional developments, one kind of geared towards classroom management and relationship building that really focused on growth mindset. It was Capturing Kids' Heart. It was a fantastic professional development that I experienced. It was profound, and I felt like really life-changing for me, and how I approached my students and how I viewed my students in the classroom. So it was very impactful for the way I ran my class. Like I literally took a lot of what I was doing and just like chunked it out the window and really revamped my entire classroom. I actually used it at home too with my children. So it's really helped me develop a different way of viewing my students and kind of looking at them and trying to grow them as students. You know, I'm a science teacher, so when I think about it, I visualize them as like little seeds, and I'm flowering, and they're going to turn into a flower. And so that's kind of, when I think of visible learning, that's what I think about, or capturing kids' hearts. And then my second one was visible learning. Visible learning was something that I experienced in a way to really help me develop my content area. And to create it to be more differentiated and engaging for all levels and all thinkers. And so visible learning was a good academic professional development that allowed me to really embrace a lot of different kinds of thinking. Again, it did focus on a little bit more growth mindset, learn through failure, learn through doing things and then trying and then failing at it and then trying it again and then building on that failure and learning from it and progressing and growing. So both those, and really, really the heart of it all was like a growth mindset kind of idea. One was more geared towards classroom management and relationships, and then the other one was geared towards academics. So.
Now, you were talking about growth mindset and how you try to grow your students, using the analogy of a flower. Do you feel like in your professional development they use these techniques on you as an educator?
I have had some that definitely do that, and I have had others that do not do that.
Interesting.
So it just depends on the presenter. It depends on the content. Just like you said, if it's more specific, and I think it depends on my attitude going in too.
Interesting.
So.
Ms. Harkey, in your experience, how has any example of professional development helped to impact the student in your classroom?
So I love what you were talking about in regards to, learning through failure. I try and incorporate that into my classroom as well, because my students are going to hopefully go into the healthcare profession, and being new as a rookie nurse prior to my education career, even walking into the patient's room for the first time, it's terrifying. You have all this clinical content knowledge in your brain, but if you don't know how to deliver it in a compassionate manner, nothing really is going to happen except you'll get some vital signs. But if you develop a relationship with your patient, then you'll be amazed at what you can find out and how you can holistically help them. So I think by learning how to have a relationship with your student will give them strength of how to transfer that in their healthcare, maybe nursing career in the future. So by growing the student, you're growing them professionally to care for the future population.
Excellent. So as far as like skill acquisition in your particular unique field, can you speak to any professional development that you've had access to that has allowed you to advance you professionally as a nurse or in the medical field?
So we did have a professional development actually to help us with some of our nurses that I teach. We went to Lone Star College, and they let us utilize their teaching facility where they now have a bachelor's degree for nurses there, and they train them in this facility with real patient beds with sometimes they use real patients. They also have mannequins that allow you to do catheter work, blood draws, CPR, all kinds of different nursing skills that you have to have, and it's so much better to continuously practice it. So even if I've been in the classroom and I haven't been in a hospital setting for the past 6 years, I can go over the summer to these teaching facilities, and I can make sure that I still have my skills that I'm teaching my students. So I found that helpful.
So by re-emerging yourself into the nursing setting, the medical field, and advancing your skills, how do you think that translates to the classroom? How does you becoming better, more mastery in your field, help you to educate and advance students?
That is such a good question. I think if you're going to get up and teach, As we were talking about another professional development, if you don't know what you're talking about, the audience will know. So as a teacher, if you don't know your content and if you don't actually know the movements you have to do to successfully hit the vein and draw the blood to get this proper lab draw, as opposed to sticking the patient 100 times and they're mad and then the family's mad and it's a horrible day, you have to stay on top of your skills so your students will believe you. Because if they don't believe what I'm saying, they're not going to retain it and they won't be able to do it properly, which may mean I may be producing a dangerous person who may be caring for my mom. And I want to make sure that I'm properly teaching my future healthcare people how to do it based on my expertise, which means I have to be a continuous learner as well.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that because in science, we dissect and we do those types of things. And if I am over here, improperly dissecting the pig, I'm teaching them how to improperly dissect the pig.
Right.
So whenever they advance and they move on into a more academic biology class, like in their college level, their professor is going to be like, "What are you doing? That's not how you're supposed to make the cut or whatever." So yeah, I think that it's very important that you keep your skills up so that you can then transfer those, and the kids then believe you.
Yes.
Because they see what you're doing and they see that you have some sort of expertise in the area.
And that's the truth of it, is having the kids, again, with relationships, if you keep up your skills and you're authentic in what you can show them, they believe you and they trust in you and they're like,
and
oh,
trust, that's such a
you know
good
what?
word. Yes.
My teacher showed me this. That's exactly what I should do. They knew what they were doing.
Yes.
So,
I agree.
yeah, keeping yourself up on your skills is a definite must, especially for those relationships with your students.
Agree.
Speaking on those, in our introductions, we didn't identify whether or not we were coaches. So if you're the coaches here, I would like for you to speak a little bit about how in the athletics world, your professional development has guided you towards the content of your sport as well as your relationship building. So if
I'll speak.
really-
I've also coached baseball at St. John's, and one of the hardest things to get players to do is to push themselves harder, to get that little extra bit out of them. And some of the great advice that I got from personal development was, the relationship aspect of it. It was, show these kids that you care about them personally. You care about their environment they're in. You care about, where they're going on in the future, and that you're really there for their best interest, not to get them to run a little faster down the baseline or to, lay out for a fly ball or to, run an extra 5 laps around the field. That when the kid, what we were taught basically is that as the kids are warming up, walk around and say, "Hey, saw you got a new car. How's, do you like it? Hey, you still dating so and so?" Or, hey, how's math class going for you?
Right.
Just basic interaction. Besides, hey, get your elbow up. Extend out further. Hey, you need to be running harder and faster. Let the kids know that you actually personally care about their well-being.
Right.
And that was a shocker when I walked into one of these PD that it was something I never really thought about. I thought just being a screamer and a holler on the baseball field, would get the results I wanted.
Yeah.
But when I made it relationship driven, it completely changed everything.
Right.
Yeah, there was one of the classes that we took, and it was talking about how, like we kind of touched earlier, about how the kids are developing differently nowadays than they used to. And it's almost like nowadays kids are asking why a lot more. So like when you're teaching them, hey, get your elbow up, why? Because you're going to have, it's healthier for your arm. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're not going to. So it's when you're coaching these kids in athletics and stuff now, it's not just do it. It's, well, I need you to pull this weight behind you while you're running because it's going to make you stronger. And it's almost like you have to explain why.
To help them understand.
Right, why you're doing things, not just do it anymore. Like when I played athletics, our coaches just yelled at us and said, just do it. And now they're teaching us to teach these kids, explain to them why you're teaching these things.
You're educating them on it.
Yeah.
Right,
That's a
and
great point.
And it's almost like, with all this we're in the information age,
Right.
and it's, these kids are developing, and they can get all this information. It's like we have to be the forefront of that as well, and teaching these kids and telling them, okay, well, this is why you're doing this. You're getting, you need to get these good grades to move on, not just because I say so. And they respond a lot better to that.
They do.
I think that's important in professional development as well for adults. Like, yes, please give me some guidelines on how to teach this content, but also tell me why. Why is this way going to be better than this way? Why should I change what I'm doing? Oh, okay, because it's more successful. It produces, better results. Students understand it better. Tell me the science behind it as a science teacher, so I can better educate my kiddos.
Yeah.
Excellent. So either in the athletic world or academic, how has leadership, whether it's your athletic director or APs and principals, how have they helped to mentor you in your professional development? Have they left it mostly up to choice, or have they scripted your professional development?
I've had all of the above.
Yeah,
all of the
me
above.
too.
I've been under all different
Me too.
regimes.
Can you speak to the pros and cons of each one?
Absolutely. And a lot of it has to do with your personality, to be fair. Just like your students, you have to diversify your learning and stuff like that. As educators, we have to be educated as well. So I've had an AD who just was focused on one sport only, and if you weren't there, just as long as you bid your time and whatever, and that was great. And that in one point was bad because you didn't feel wanted or accepted or valued. But then again, you could kind of do whatever you wanted, and you could make your program what you wanted to make it, which was kind of nice. But if you don't have that educator who wants to make their program be really great, you could see where all those things were going wrong, and it was really hard to fix those things because you didn't have the support of your AD.
Interesting.
I mean, they make all the difference in the world.
Right.
And then, principals make a huge difference. If they just come in and check in and say hi, you feel valued. Especially when they say something like, "Oh, this was really awesome. Thank you for doing this." Makes a big difference as opposed to those that don't see you. I mean, it makes a big difference. I haven't had the micromanaging situation yet, which I'm thankful for because I probably wouldn't do very well under that situation. But I do have coworkers that have been in that situation, and they say that they liked certain aspects of that because they knew exactly what they were supposed to do, exactly how to do it. Their expectation was very clear.
Yeah.
The problem was if it didn't happen,
Yeah.
and then it kind of all fell apart at that point. But obviously, just like our students, I want to be nurtured.
Right.
I want to, hey, good job today. That helps. I certainly don't want the micromanaging and I want this and this and this and this to happen. I mean, we've had certain teachers that have told us that their principals want them to line their kids up a certain way, and they're very on top of them, and they don't feel like it's their program. They're just a body that is
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm going to say this and I'm going to do this,
Right.
So
You're just here to execute my plan,
right,
and you have no say so.
and it makes it really hard. I mean, but again, it really depends on your personality. Do you want ownership of your own situation,
Yeah.
or do you want to just go to work and get a paycheck? I mean, that's the difference, which most educators are not.
I've had experience in the whole micromanaging, especially in professional development, and then more of the go and explore and get, choose what you want to kind of really develop yourself as a whole. When I first started teaching at Dory, my principal was an extreme micromanager, and the benefits of that though are I knew exactly what to expect. I knew where I was supposed to be, when I was supposed to be, how long I was going to be there for, and then that expectation was very clear, and it was clear across the board. I also felt like there was no favoritism because it was clear across the board, and then I feel like that.
Can we speak more to how the micromanaging in regards to professional development as opposed to classroom management.
Well,
So if you would give me an example of how did your micromanaging principal, how did she micromanage your professional development?
okay, so like when we would come back to school, we would have our like week of professional development. She had very specific rotations that we were required to go to. We had to sign in and out of them. She had APs sitting in every single one of them to ensure that we were all there.
What sort of feelings did you get?
Like I was being treated like a child.
How did that impact your professional development?
I didn't listen.
Interesting. Nick,
From that too.
can you talk about any benefit to this sort of style of management?
Again,
Well, all the teachers get the same information, so like you were saying, it's equal.
you're right. You're right. So like we were all given the same information, so you're right. So we all absorbed some kind of information. I was also on the other side of that where I was required, I was told to lead a professional development. I wasn't asked. So I did one for the staff there, and being the presenter and having them have to be there was very difficult to try to present information because I could definitely feel that frustration, that resistance, that all of that.
The
So
disconnect.
it put me in a hot seat.
Do you have any
Like I did not
suggestions
like it at
on-
all.
What suggestions would you have to better facilitate a meeting like that? Being a presenter. in a professional setting?
Relationships. I kind of started out trying to be really funny and relatable with the staff that came in. I did not hide the elephant in the room. I addressed it. We all have to be here. You are required to come see me. I'm sorry for that. You know,
That's good.
when I addressed the elephant in the room, when I kind of talked a little bit about it, when I also, because I had a little bit of, I was in the school long enough, and it was a smaller school because it was middle school at the time. I knew a lot of teachers, and I knew a lot of the teachers that kind of resisted that, and I got them, if I got them engaged, it helped. It helped pull a lot of people.
Mr. Lee, can you talk a little bit about your experiences in the private school setting, about how leadership has helped you or hindered you in professional development?
Private school is a little bit different than the public school. I wish we would pull more of what you guys do. More of the continued education, more of the personal development aspects of it. Because in the private school, we don't have the money as the resources like you guys necessarily. I know everybody talks about how there's not as much money in public schools, but you guys, there is emphasis put into additional education. For us, it's really not so much. It's more self-driven on whether we want to go and take these classes, because the school, our money comes from the parents.
Right.
And the parents expect so much, throughout the year, the 9 months that we're in school, that there's not really that much money left behind for us to go down to Galveston for, a day or two for a conference, or go to Texas State University to sit through something, or go up to a training and learning class at,
It's not a priority.
Yeah, it's not a priority at all. Now, is it essential? Yes, absolutely it is. Because, these kids are learning at different rates with technology that's going on. They're learning at different rates with, like you were talking about, they're asking more questions than what previous generations, I think, did. I think when we were all in school, we sat there and we just said, we blindly stared at the teacher, and, they said add 2 + 2 and equals 4. We trusted and we just did it. Kids there asking a lot more questions. In teaching English, there was a time when you told them to go read the book, write a paper, turn it in. Now it's a lot more, how'd that make you feel? What do you think about this chapter of the book? There's a lot more conversation going on in the classroom than just spitting out assignments. But getting back to your question, I believe it was, how has professional development helped me? The ones that I can get into, from a private school have helped a lot, because the learning different ways to think about kids today. But I do have if I can, you're kind of on an island by yourself, because you don't have a team. All of us have teams that we're part of in our schools. you're kind of an island. You are the person. How's that affected you? If you don't mind me hijacking the question here.
It's a good question.
Well, I am able to refer to different science teachers in my school, but as far as being HOSA, I am able to reach out to health services for a lot of guidance. Lots of my kiddos actually, they're on a program to graduate with nursing credits. They'll have their associate's degree, and then they can go ahead and pursue a bachelor's after high school graduation, which I wish they would have had when I was in high school. But they are able to go to other school clinics within my district to shadow the school nurses there. So a lot of my feedback and team comes from different arenas, not necessarily just the science department at my school, because we do totally different things. So that answers your question.
I was just
Okay.
Mr. Shane, if you don't mind, how do you feel that professional development has equipped you with certain tools to help with student achievement? What specific professional developments have you been to that has allowed you to relate to the students in order to increase their achievements, like whether it be through social media or learning new math techniques?
A lot of it, I think, is again, I know we keep talking about social media, but it seems like it's such a huge part of younger generations, just everything about them. So learning how to get on iPads, how to use your iPad and download these different apps and get onto these social media apps, and how to interact inside these social medias as well.
When you say interact, are you talking about how to create lesson plans, or are you talking about how to create problems that your students can solve interactively through technology?
Both. One is how to communicate and get your lesson plans and stuff out, instead of just here's your textbook.
Right.
Now we do a lot of our lesson plans online, so a lot of our students now can get online and interact. We can interact with the parents now a lot more. Parents these days are a lot busier than they used to be as well. So being able to connect with parents through social media and giving them, trying to get the more parents involvement in the classrooms I think is huge as well. And then because you never know who you're dealing with. You've got your student there, and their parents may be lawyers, their parents may be mechanics. You just don't know. So a lot of the professional development stuff, one of the professional development we did was how to interact with everything from white collar to blue collar, the stay-at-home moms, how to connect with these people, and how these people are going to approach you differently. A lot of times a stay-at-home mom, it's a lot more involved, versus the dad who maybe is a lawyer who works 80 hours a week.
Right.
So if you use different ways to connect with them, it'll positively impact your student, hopefully.
Correct.
To produce better results.
Correct.
That's a good point.
Actually, so in summary, I was wondering if each of you would give an example of best case scenario where professional development has helped with student achievement in order to achieve the highest possible success, either in terms of TEKS or academic acquisition, skill acquisition, or some sort of relationship building that they've used within your classroom or in the hallways, in their sporting events, at home, inside, or just essentially either critique something that you have received or to expand on something that you found to be highly successful.
Okay. We went over something called Nurtured Heart at our school, and I think it has a lot of positives in it. However, my critique would be that it asks you to constantly give praise and positive compliments to students no matter what. You're always looking at them as with your heart. If you say a critique, then you have to buffer it with 2 compliments. And I think this is totally unrealistic. It is not the real world. It does not set them up for success. Yes, I do think that you need to see the good, but I also think you need to solve the problem. I think it should be a very balanced approach to relationship. Otherwise, you're not going to set these students up for the real world. That would be my critique.
Okay.
That's good.
I think I attended a couple of different professional developments that were very content specific, and they were very helpful, but they didn't give me a whole lot of time to develop. So it was a lot of information overload. It was good information. It was good lessons. We did, they even showed us examples. It was great, but we were not able to authentically apply that and given that time to really take what we do in our classrooms and in our lessons. And that would be a critique that I would really like to see is more time, more ability to take what I've learned to build a lesson.
That's an excellent point. Well, guys, I want to really thank you for coming together today and talking a little bit about the benefits of professional development and helping us to grow as professionals.
Thank you.
Thank you.